Hey, everybody, good morning and welcome back. If you happen to be tuning in live for our 80s Wrestling the Podcast YouTube page, jump into the comment section. There's a link pinned to the top. Click that link to get on the air with us. And just a reminder, before you join us, you can turn your camera off. We're doing audio-only callers. Use headphones if possible and mute your YouTube live stream before entering the backstage area. Once you're in that backstage area, you can still follow and participate in the YouTube comment section just by clicking the comment section inside that studio app. And don't forget to follow our YouTube page. Hit that notification bell to stay up to date on show topics, special guests, and all that good stuff. Today, we've got a very fun show planned because we have a special guest today, one half of one of the most dominant and intimidating tag teams in wrestling history, a multi-time WWF tag team champion and a man who helped define the tag team wrestling during that beautiful golden era, from the face paint to the leather to demolishing the competition night after night. This man was part of one of the most iconic tag teams in the history of the World Wrestling Federation, none other than the Hall of Famer, Bill Ax Eadie of Demolition. We'll be talking Demolition, the glory days of 80s wrestling, locker room stories, championship memories, 80s Wrestling Con, and so much more on this live episode of 80s Wrestling the Podcast. My name, Jumpin Jay, and as always, I'm joined by the one and only, the ConFather, Mr. Tommy Fierro. Tommy, good morning, brother. What is going on today? Tommy, can you hear me, brother? Tommy must be having a little bit of technical difficulties unmuting his microphone this morning, but we're going to jump right into it. Remember, hit that link in the comments if you want to get on the air and talk live with Bill Ax Eadie. And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here he is, one half of Demolition Hall of Famer, Bill Ax Eadie. Bill, good morning, sir. Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. I know the fans are beyond excited to get an opportunity to connect with you this morning.
Well, we're always happy to see the fans, meet the fans, chat with them. And as I mentioned many, many times, if it wasn't for the fans, there'd be no Demolition.
Well, we appreciate that, and we love being fans of you, and we're going to jump into the Wrestling Collector Slam line right away. This morning, the first caller to talk with you, we call him the Rookie. His name is Edwin. Edwin, good morning, brother. You are live with Bill Ax Eadie of Demolition.
Hey, can you guys hear me, first of all?
Edwin,
Yes.
We can hear you this morning. Good morning.
Awesome. So once again, I know Bill probably hears this so many times, but really it's not just you saying thank you to us, but really thank you to you for just the years of entertainment and all you contributed, not to just the WWE, but just in wrestling in general, from, Georgia Championship Wrestling to the AWA to Japan. Just, you just had such a historic career, and we just are so grateful and thankful for, not just doing that for us, but just even giving back to the fans and showing up at all these conventions and even just this podcast this morning. So thank you so much, Bill.
Well, it's my pleasure. I mean, Barry and I always enjoy the conventions and signings and chatting with the fans. And I'm honest when we say that, you guys gave us support over the years, and I think it was instrumental in the WWE administration listening to the fans' support and during the induction. So I appreciate everything that all of you have done.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. We are just thankful that you're still here and, giving back to the fans. And we're so appreciative of it. And, just on a personal level. So I was born in 1983, and I started watching wrestling obviously during the Demolition period, but I did go back when the WWE had their network open, and I got to see really that time period a bit better because I did have a lot of sentimental value just because of the year. And in 1983, you were pretty much like the top heel. I think you and Don Morocco were like the top, villains in the WWF. And I know this is so long ago, but I watched the segment where you had Eddie Gilbert and you gave him like this swinging neck breaker on the floor.
Right.
And it was like the crowd just went silent. And it just reminds me of how much more real that fans really bought in and how good of a character you were, that fans legitimately just bought that swinging neck breaker hook, line, and sinker. And then eventually, when you were going against Bob Backlund, I think in the Madison Square Garden, because I watched the show, because that was the one where Jimmy Snuka did the cage dive on Don Morocco, and that night you wrestled Bob Backlund for the World Wrestling Federation title, and you won the match, and you did the exact same move on the concrete with the swinging neck breaker. So my question to you is more so just, what really goes into making like a believable finish for a wrestling match? Like the swinging neck breaker on the concrete.
Well, that was part of it. I know if you remember, that was right on the concrete, and now they have mats and padding around the perimeter of the ring. But it does take a toll on your body over the years. Each day I wake up, something else hurts from something I did 8 or 10 years ago. But I think it's just there's so many moves that people do now, and unfortunately, if you do something, they do fantastic things over the top rope, over the barriers, so many things. But then they do throw them back in the ring, and they do 15 spots after that. So they don't capitalize on that moment. I think that if you're going to do something devastating, that should be the climax.
Absolutely, because I just watched that, and then I think Gorilla Monsoon, who I don't know if you're really close with him, but he always did a fantastic job of like buying the finish when he would like someone would like hit a big move and like it's over, like count to 10. And I really thought that when you did that, because I watched that entire sort of feud happen, and when you hit that move, I was like, I think Bellini, Max Superstar is going to be the World Wrestling Federation champion, and the crowd was silent, and then they actually also bought that, a count out could be like a title change. So I just really love that era of wrestling, because I just think that fans these days are just too in the know. They kind of can see like if a title switch is going to happen or whatnot. So I really did think that was such a great feud. Might even be the best feud of your entire career, in my opinion. But I'll just leave this one last note. So I know we have other callers, but at the start of your career, I think you were one of the Mongols.
Right.
And I think, was it Nikolai Volkov one of them too, I think?
He was the original. He and the guy that broke me in was Newton Tatry, Guido Mongol. And Nikolai got hurt. He got a ruptured spleen in Louisiana, and they were scheduled to go to Japan. So he couldn't go, of course. And since Guido trained me, he asked me if I would be interested. I was teaching at the time. Fortunately, it was in the summer, so I was off. So I got an opportunity to go over there. And then a big what if came in my life. I was asked to do this for a career. And I said, well, what if I don't do it? I'm going to regret it. And my wife supported me. She was a nurse at the time. She said, if you don't try it, you may regret it the rest of your life. If you try it and it's not successful, you can always go back to teaching. So I credit her with the support for me making that decision.
Awesome. And do you remember like getting like your hair done, like the Mongols? Because I always see those photos of like you kind of like bald, and you have that little pointy like arrow thing at the top.
Yeah.
Did you remember like when you first looked in the mirror and you saw that?
I do. And then the funny thing was, my oldest daughter came in the morning when after I got it shaved, and I had tried to develop the mustache for a period of time, so she was used to that. But when she came into the bedroom, she looked at me and ran away screaming because she didn't recognize me. So I think it was very traumatic for her.
It's almost as good as your Survivor Series 1990 hair that was like viral for a couple days. But
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much, Bill, and I really enjoyed just this conversation. And thank you so much for what you did for wrestling. So have a great day.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for being a fan.
Edwin, thank you so much for kicking off the show. We are live with Demolition Ax, Bill Eadie, and we're also joined by none other than the ConFather, Tommy Fierro. Tommy, can you hear us now, brother?
Yeah, sorry about that. We New Jersey traffic is insane this morning. I got on like 2 minutes late. I apologize for the delay. Bill, it's a pleasure to have you on. You've been on the podcast in the past. You know, I am one of your biggest supporters. I was so thrilled when I found out that you were going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year, and it was so cool to watch you and Barry get inducted into the Hall of Fame. They're on countless 80s wrestling cons, and actually Bill is going to be on our next one on Halloween this year. He's going to be the Masked Superstar, which would be really cool. Barry had a commitment with his family, so he couldn't make it. And then we're also going to have Bill. So half of the event will be the Masked Superstar. The other half is going to come back as Demolition Ax, and you're going to have the opportunity to get your face painted as Demolition at 80s Wrestling on Halloween, which is going to be a really cool attraction that I'm looking forward to.
I told Jay, I said, you're going to have disclaimers because I spent all these years putting paint on myself, but never put paint on anybody else. So they'll have to accept any design scheme that we develop.
That's going to be quite the experience for some lucky fans to get their face painted by Demolition Ax. Let me ask you this, Bill. How long did it take you? I know with Demolition, you kind of had a few different designs that you would do on your face. How long did it take you to dial in painting your own face and coming up with a design that you liked?
Well, like you said earlier, we just experimented. It usually takes about a half hour to put it on, and depending upon how intricate, of course. But I like the idea of just changing the structure and the appearance and design. Barry likes sticking basically with the same design and different color variations, but mine is sometimes just on how I feel that day. Do I need to remove this or add this or change that or tweak it? So it just depends on how I feel that day.
And then do you guys I know like when I would watch Ultimate Warrior wrestle, by the end of his matches, a lot of time his face paint would be off. Yours seemed to stick on. Is that just because you didn't take as much punishment in your matches, maybe, or did you use a different style makeup than the rest of the guys?
Well, I got the advice from my wife, and sometimes if you use cheap products, they do come off. Uh, Unfortunately, the paint that we use or the markings we use are very expensive in that area. Sometimes $15-20 per pencil, but they do stay on. You don't have to adjust them all the time, even if you're involved in a messy match. A lot of times it doesn't rub off.
So then how long would it take it to come off backstage in the locker room when it was time to
Oh
come
well,
off?
you've got to get the makeup removers. You've got to soap and water. It takes a lot of scrubbing and a lot of time.
Was there ever an instance where you didn't have the time needed to remove it and you had to go to the airport or go on to your next thing and had a little bit of red or silver still on the face?
Oh, that always happens. So I have to depend on Barry or the mirrors, or sometimes there's no mirrors in there other than the ones we hold in our hand. But yeah, I'm sure I've been on the plane sitting by someone and they're wondering what the heck's wrong with this guy's got makeup on. So
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live this morning with Demolition Ax. If you want to get on live with him, hit that link in the YouTube. Up next on the Wrestling Collectors Slam Line, it's time to fly out to sunny Chico, California, and check in with who we like to call Babyface Brian. Brian, good morning, brother.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Bill.
morning.
Hey, I got to sit down with you 3 years ago at 80s Wrestling Con when you were having breakfast, and I met you the night before when you and Barry got in just before midnight, and it was just such a pleasure getting to meet you. I had an extra LJN figure and Andre the Giant that I had painted, and you let me know that your daughter collected wrestling figures, so I was able to give you that,
Yes,
and
and I
hopefully that
still
got.
have it. I still have it.
Oh, very cool. I was wondering with all the new action figures that you and Barry have gotten, Is that something that's been particularly excited for your daughter who collects them? And has she gotten each of those separate figures? And what's it like being out there in all this new product?
Well, anything that comes to the house, my wife goes for it first and takes one for herself, but also takes one for my daughter. I've got two grandsons here in Atlanta, and then two grandsons in Charlotte. So at least 6 or 7 items are confiscated right away. Yeah.
Very cool. And like I say, I just want to thank you for your kindness and willingness to spend time with everybody out there at the 80s Wrestling Con. Tommy really puts on a great show. And you and Barry both were just a joy to talk to and to meet in person.
I appreciate that. And Tommy does do a good, fantastic job.
And before I go, I was just wondering, I haven't heard you talk much about the filming for No Holds Barred before. What was the experience like working with Hulk and working with the other performers? Was it just a one afternoon thing, or what was it like?
Well, it was scheduled to be an all-day event. We we met here at the airport, Hogan and I, flew out to Topeka and discussed what was our part or my part. And then we went to work out. Next morning, we got to the arena in Topeka, and they had reserved it all day. Uh, we the director and the people involved in the shoot said, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. So we had in mind, we had set aside, I believe, 10 or 12 minutes that we discussed. We did our part of the match in one take. And they said, my goodness, that's great. He said, what do you need? And Hogan said, that's it. So we did a couple still photos, around the ring, in the ring. And I was gone. I went back home. Hogan had to stay to continue his part. But yeah, it was supposed to be an all-day event, and it only took about 20 minutes for us.
So it was probably nice. Maybe you got a little bit of time to go home and not have to be on the road for a day or two, huh?
Well, originally it was supposed to be 3 days off. Originally it was supposed to be Smash. And then Hogan, because I had single matches with him in Japan years before, wanted me to do it. So I said, if you clear it with Barry, and I was happy that Barry was going to do it because I was going to have 3 days off. Barry was happy that I was going to do it because he had 3 days off. So it worked out for him.
Very cool. Hey, Bill, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I appreciate you going out and meeting all your fans. And I wish you nothing but the best, my friend. Say hi to Barry and take care.
I will. I'll see him this weekend. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, babyface Brian. Now, Bill, I think I've heard a story. Maybe you've told the story. Maybe somebody else has that. I think your parents went and saw No Holds Barred inside the theater, and they didn't recognize you in the movie.
Right.
Is that true?
Right. I think they were expecting, I don't know what, Mass Superstar or Demolition, but it was in the opening of the match. Opening of the movie. And they watched the whole movie and they looked at each other. And I think my mother said, I think they didn't use Bill. They must have taken him out. Well, then the credits are running. And then they see my name and it was Jake Bullitt. So it's a small theater, small town. So they stayed and watched it again.
Did they buy another ticket or did
No,
they?
no, no. It was small town, Brownsville, Pennsylvania. There's only about 7 or 8,000 people living there now. So they knew the guy and he let him stay.
Is that the small town that you were from originally?
Well, it was a little bit bigger when I was growing up, but yes, south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
So what did the hometown folks think when you became this pro wrestler? You're on TV, you're winning championships, you become a very big deal, to be honest with you. What did the other people in the town think when you would go back and visit?
Well, it's funny that you asked that because this September, the second weekend of September, they're going to have a Bill Eadie Day in Brownsville and give me the key to the city and it's very exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. They're going to have live matches from a local independent promotion and Q&A session, meet and greet. So my wife and I and my daughter's all going to travel up there. I believe it's whatever the second Saturday is in September.
Well, congratulations. That's quite the honor.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm very excited about it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live with Demolition Ax. My name's Jumpin Jay. We're joined by the ConFather, Tommy Fierro. We're going to keep the calls going. The slam line is stacked and packed with folks that want to get a chance to talk one-on-one with a Hall of Famer. Up next on the slam line, none other than Professor Matt. Matt, good morning, brother.
Good morning, Mr. Eady. Pleasure to speak with you. Huge fan. Huge fan, like I think everybody is. Demolition fan, favorite tag team of all time. I'll tell you that while I love both the heel and face runs, I think the heel runs were more my favorite. And I guess my question for you is, it seemed inevitable that, you know, the first face turn for Demolition had to happen due to crowd reaction. But my question is, what was your initial reaction when you were sort of told, hey, we're gonna turn you guys babyface? And follow up to that reaction is, did you prefer with Demolition being heels or faces?
Well, I was a little disappointed because I think that the powers that be, and that's Vince, of course, I think they heard the fans cheering for us and thought, well, they like these guys. You got to make them good guys. Well, they didn't have to do that, in my opinion, and Barry's as well. I think the fans cheered us because they enjoyed and liked what they were seeing. You know, not blowing smoke, but I think that when the music hit and we came through the curtain, the fans knew that something was going to happen. And to listen to the reaction and their cheering does not equate to being a good guy. They cheered us, I think, because they appreciated what we were doing. And all we wanted to do was have the best possible match that night and then try to improve on it. Yeah, I was a little disappointed, but once we made the change, we went with it. I think that by turning a good guy or a baby face that soon put a restriction on us to the teams that we could work with.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you find that your merchandise royalties went up when you guys went babyface, selling more T-shirts and stuff like that?
Not really. At that time, it's not like it is today. The situation is, since we signed the Legends contract, it's more beneficial. I think that the arrangement that everybody had previous to that, the old WWF, wasn't as good as it is with WWE.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Mr. Eady, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Huge Demolition fan, always have been, always will be. And thank you for taking the time.
My pleasure. I appreciate you.
Bill, I have a question for you. One of my favorite matches from Demolition is when you guys recaptured the tag team titles from the Colossal Connection at WrestleMania 6. But prior to that, on an episode of Superstars, is when you lost the tag titles to Andre the Giant and Haku. And in that match, I remember as a child watching it, you were in the match the entire time, Ax. You never got to tag in Smash, and you wrestled a great portion of that match alongside Andre the Giant. I'd love to get your memory of that particular match and why you got to stay in the whole time and never make that hot tag to try to get Smash to save the titles.
Boy, I don't remember that. I'll have to watch that myself. Maybe because they were beating the crap out of me, I couldn't make the tag.
that is definitely the story being told in the ring. And I remember as a young child yelling at the TV, cheering you on to try to make that tag, but it was for naught. Andre kept you in there, kept pulling your hair, choking you, and then dropped maybe the largest elbow in history on you to cover you for the win.
You know what? It's ironic then, because if I was in most of the time during that match, Haku was in most of the time during the following match. So served him
That is
right.
true. That's how it went.
Hey,
Yeah.
Bill, I had a quick question for you also. I just saw last week at 80s Wrestling Con, because you were right by the stage where the fans were, where they did If You Only Knew. I remember you guys being a part of that video. How different was it for you then? Because you know, before coming to WWF as Demolition, and I mean, you were there obviously as the Masked Superstar, but it wasn't really cartoonish like it was when you guys got there. What was that like for you guys doing something like that? It had to be a lot of fun.
It was fun. Yeah. The productions that, you got to give Vince credit. He's a genius on reaching the people and reading the people. So it was fun. And that took place, I believe, in Trump Plaza, Atlantic City. So yeah, I often see that on Instagram.
You got a great singing voice too, Bill.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live with one half of Demolition, also known as the Masked Superstar, Bill Eadie. Hit that connect button to get on the air and talk one-on-one. He'll take your fan questions, your comments, your memories. Up next on the Wrestling Collector Slam Line, it's time for the world's most dangerous caller. It's time for Jason. Jason, good morning, brother. You are live with Demolition Ax.
Do you guys hear me?
Yes,
Loud
sir.
and clear, brother.
Good thing. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
I have two questions for you. What was your favorite character to play? And you as Demolition, and what was your favorite tag team to wrestle?
Well, I enjoyed both Masked Superstar and Demolition. Masked Superstar gave me privacy, and of course, it was my first, what I would classify as big break. I got to travel the world, but I also liked and enjoyed Demolition. So choosing between the two, it would be very difficult. Favorite tag team? We get that question quite often, and I'll be very honest, it would be hard to list one or two, but the ones that come to mind would be British Bulldogs, Strike Force, of course, Brainbusters, Haku and Andre, Big Boss Man, and Akeem, or Gang. Akeem, I think it was. So, but if we mention those, we probably leaving out 2 or 3 times that. But, it was fortunate because all of the great tag teams in wrestling, or 90% of them, were there at the time. So it'd be hard to go out and not have a good match.
Yeah, and another thing I want to say thank you for the memories. Growing up, you guys were a big part of my childhood.
Well, thank you. I hope it was a positive memories.
Yeah, there were some positive memories. I remember, you guys being. I remember the Pizza Hut commercial you and Axe did. I mean, Smash.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. That was fun.
I remember.
That was we did that in one take. They had us scheduled for the whole day, and we did that in one take, and they were amazed. And I told the guys that everything we do, our interviews and everything's just one take.
Okay, I remember watching TV one day, and that commercial came on. I'm like, cool, the WWF guys on a Pizza Hut commercial.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason, thank you so much for calling in and tuning in. You were the Pizza Hut commercial kind of shows that you were part of this really big boom period for professional wrestling, where wrestling was seen almost everywhere on a national spotlight. There was cartoons, action figures, commercials. I would love to know from a guy who lived it, what do you think? We love the golden era on this podcast. We love reminiscing. It holds a special place in all of our hearts. But what do you think was so special about that time period, and why it seemed to really take off and connect with so many people?
Well, I wish I knew the secret, because it was very, very popular. You see the ratings and people are ecstatic when they have 1.5 million views or 2 million views. We worried if it was below 10 million because somebody was going to be upset. But I think that there's so much on TV now. I'm not sure. Maybe it's getting a little, it's like football or baseball. Sometimes you can offer too much, but I was just happy that we were in that time frame. We enjoyed it, and we got to, we got to do the things that celebrities do. Didn't feel like we were at that level, but we got to do some things that they did, so it was nice.
Now, I know one of the things that you do currently to connect with your fans and continue to grow that popularity is you and Smash have started the Demo Pod, which is a demolition podcast starring you and your partner Smash, hosted by Ryan Meyer, the comedian. I'd love to get your take on that. First of all, thank you for doing that. I tune in. I enjoy hearing the backstage stories. Tell me a little bit about your process with that.
Well, your partner right there was instrumental. He's the one that suggested that we do it. Tommy introduced us to Dan and Ryan, and the first couple episodes we were just going by the shoelaces, but Ryan and Dan, the professionals they are, took care of us. But it's fun. I mean, it's just like, chatting with you guys. Once you get going and you feel comfortable, it's just relaying stories and answering questions. And the fans seem to like it. We're growing, and I can never mention enough. If it wasn't for the fans, there'd be no Demolition. That's true.
Tommy, I know you're a big supporter of Demolition and you bring them to all your conventions and you were a driving force behind this demo pod. Kind of talk us through your thought process, Mr. Fierro, about getting Demolition, this YouTube page, this podcast, kind of getting them back out in the public eye. And then alas, they're in the Hall of Fame now. So I feel like as popular as they were back there, I feel like your popularity is still growing strong.
Oh yeah, big time. And it's going to continue to grow. I just, I'm a big listener of podcasts myself when I'm traveling up and down the road. And, I've heard a lot of podcasts of guys that, and no disrespect, but they have tremendous success at it. And they're not nearly on the level of Demolition. So, I suggested to them, hey guys, I think it'd be a great idea if, you guys started your own podcast. And my buddy Dan, who is the DJ for ISW, he's very tech savvy, and then Ryan, who used to host my the virtual signings for 80s wrestling back in the day. I thought he would have been a great guest host of it, and they're doing a great job, and they're starting to do more episodes now, and it is catching on. I see when I go to a bunch of the different wrestling websites, they quote Ax and Smash and a lot of stuff. So, them putting the links on the different websites is getting them more traction as well. So I could see the podcast growing tremendously this year. And man, those guys, they can tell stories from now to the end of time, and they would never get old.
Well, we try not to. We're not critical of people, and we're not going to downgrade people, and we just want to be honest with the fans, and they do have an opportunity to submit questions and try to get some additional insights. So it's been fun.
Well, we appreciate you doing it. We appreciate you coming on this morning. We're talking all things the golden era of wrestling with one of the greatest of all time, Bill Eadie. Bill, I would love to ask you, our first caller, the rookie Edwin, kind of insinuated that when you hit a neck breaker, the fans really bought into it. And this was a time when we all thought wrestling was as real can be. And we all know that in recent years, that curtain has pulled way back, kind of exposing more of the business than us fans ever dreamed would be possible. As a performer, as a guy who did this for a living and had great success at it, I would love to know your thoughts. Have they pulled the curtain back too far? Is the magic kind of gone? Can we ever get it back? Or once the genie's out of the bottle, it's out of the bottle for good?
Well, I wish I had the answer for that, to be honest with you, but yeah, it does disturb me a little bit. There's certain things that the fans really don't need to know, and it takes the believability out of it. And then I think sometimes some of the things that they're saying and doing and showing insults people. And I'll have to admit that I'm one of the number of, I guess, older guys in particular that aren't happy with the way the trajectory of the business may be going right now. So whether they get it back, I don't know. Like I mentioned, sometimes the companies, you get companies that are happy with a million views, and some of them aren't even getting that. And years ago, if you had less than 10 million, you might start worrying about your job. So I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Bill, one question before we jump to the next caller. Also, obviously, you were at WrestleMania this past year. I know you were definitely at night one. Who are some of the talent today? I know that you're just starting to get back into watching some of the current stuff. Who are some of the talents out there today that you look at and you like watching?
Well, I'll tell you, I like at LA Knight. I like Rhea. Um, AJ Styles was there, but he's not there any longer. Um, Jacob Fatu. There's a number of them, but those three in particular.
So if Mass Superstar had to come back in 2026 and have a match, I think LA Knight would be a good opponent for him, right?
They'd be a good opponent, but they'd have to take care of me because I'm too damn old.
Bill, it seems like a lot of modern day wrestling, people find success in singles competition, and that maybe tag team doesn't get the spotlight that it did back in the 80s. I love tag team wrestling. Tommy loved tag team wrestling. There's so much more of a story you can tell when you have four guys versus just two guys. I would love to get your take on what made the 80s tag team scene so special, and how come we haven't been able to kind of recapture that magic?
Well, I think that comes from the top. Uh, I'm not sure that they favor tag teams, um, but you're right. In a tag team match, there's a lot of excitement. A singles match very rarely can follow a good tag match. You've got four guys in there, sometimes a manager or two managers. There's always movement, there's always excitement. If you have a good referee, you've got action and movement continually. Whereas if you got two individuals, unless the fans really support that man, you have to have a good opponent. But the emphasis is on singles for some reason. But tags are hard to follow. I think if you look back during our time in there and shortly after that, the tag matches were generally last because it's hard to follow a good tag match. So I was prejudiced because we were involved in it. But then again, there were a lot of tag teams. Well, now there's two individuals that they put together as a team. They're really not a tag team. They're just two individuals waiting for their own individual drive.
Bill, so when you were Demolition in the WWF, obviously WCW, NWA back then, they were doing great with their tag team division as well. Who were some of the tag teams that were in the NWA / WCW at the time that Demolition never got in the ring with that you would have liked to have back in your prime?
Well, I would say the Dudleys. I would say Steiners, Nash and Hall. Uh,
Did you guys ever work Rock and Roll
what was Booker
Express?
T? What was Booker T's
Harlem
team?
Heat.
Harlem Heat. Yeah. What was your question? I'm sorry.
Did you guys ever work Rock and Roll Express?
No. That would be a good one. There's a number of any of them, to be honest with you. We briefly had a few matches with the Legion of Doom, but I think as the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, they had to change their presentation. But yeah, I would say those ones that I mentioned.
I think one of the biggest missed opportunities for the WWF back then was not having Demolition against the Legion of Doom at WrestleMania? I know that you guys, you had some matches. Would you have liked to have been on that big stage against them at WrestleMania? Because I feel like that's a WrestleMania match.
It's funny because I was just talking to somebody yesterday, and that came up. And yes, I think that there again, they jumped the gun, but they could have drug out that uh, initial match for a period of time and catapulted it right into a final episode at WrestleMania. But for some reason, uh, they didn't want to do that. We had no control over it. But when I remember talking to Hawk and Animal, Barry and I would always mention the same thing. All four of us wondered why that never took place.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking with Hall of Famer, multi-time world champion Bill Axe Eadie. Up next on the Wrestling Collector Slam line, it's time to go to the firehouse. It's time to visit with firefighter Brian. Brian, good morning, sir. You are live with Demolition Ax.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Very good.
But Bill, first of all, I just wanted to say I know you're probably sick of hearing congratulations, but this community has been screaming. This community alone, the whole wrestling world, had been screaming for you guys to get into the Hall of Fame, and it's finally here. You're finally in the Hall of Fame. Long overdue, but you know what? I'm just glad you're in. Who
Well,
cares about how long you're in? That's all that matters. Good for
thank
you.
you. Thank you. And to your first statement, you can never hear it too often. I appreciate that.
Oh,
But,
good.
like we mentioned earlier, if it wasn't for the fan support, I think that the administration, WWE, finally listened because thankfully all of the fans have been supporting us and we do appreciate it. We will never forget that.
We appreciate that, Bill, and it's good to hear somebody who had been around. How long, give or take? We don't need an exact number if you don't know it. How long have you been involved in the wrestling business for?
I started in September of '74.
Okay, so you're
It's been a
talking
few
over
years.
just a few years. Hell with Edwin in Canada. Bill Eadie's the rookie. No,
That's
but
right.
but so Bill, you've been in over 50 years, and here's somebody like you say it's good that the fans finally listened. And as I'm sure you know or caught wind, you were there that weekend. WrestleMania 42 did not, get the best reviews. And yeah, if they don't give a message to the fans saying we're listening to you, you're not going to have any. So it's really good to hear you say that. And I agree with you 100% on the current state of the tag team game. It's been like this for over 20 years, unfortunately. It's not tag teams anymore. Matching outfits, theme music, a team name. It's this guy and that guy. And it almost all the time does not work. So I'm really glad to hear you say that.
Well,
Now, yeah, go ahead.
you, one of the recent ones is, like you said, the only one that dressed alike or they actually were family is the Usos.
Yep.
But they're putting two individuals, not only one company, all the companies. You got to have a team related, and then you have to have individuals. But unfortunately, they have two guys. They're not sure what they got to do with, so we're gonna not put them in a warehouse. We're gonna put them on the shelf. The shelf being, we're gonna make you a team. Neither one of them wants to be a team.
Agreed. And you know what? For every The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro, there's God knows how many this guy and that guy. So I agree with you 100%, Bill. And I wanted to, say what you will about AEW. They're trying to do what you're talking about, Bill. They have tons of actual tag teams. The Young Bucks, the
Yes.
FTR, the Gun Club, the Private Party, the acclaimed. The list goes on and on. They're trying to.
Okay,
Yes.
so I really love what they're doing. If you look closely, I love hearing people, I hate AEW. Well, if you paid attention to it, they're giving you the wrestling that you're screaming for. So, anywho, enough with the negative, on to the positive. Of course, I got a couple questions for you. I wanted to ask you, Bill, you are a tag team specialist. You've been in quite a few tag teams. You did tag team wrestling for a long time. I want to hear it from somebody like you who's not only seen pretty much all of them, but even been in the ring with or against pretty much all of them. In your opinion, I, Bill, I could hear a top 100 list from you. Okay, but in an effort to save time, in your opinion, the top, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, and I don't mean to, but you're a great guy to ask this to. In my opinion, the greatest tag team wrestler of all time is probably Arn Anderson. But in your opinion, who are the top three tag teams of all time?
Oh my goodness. I think you have to that's relative to the time frame,
Right.
but uh Ole and Gene Anderson would come to mind.
Oh,
Of
wow.
course, Arn and Tully. Uh, Strike Force I thought was good. British Bulldogs. Uh, oh my goodness, the Steiners, Road Warriors. Uh, there's if I had a list in front of me, I could probably give you 50, but
sure. And then
those are the
in
those are the
modern
ones that
years,
come to mind.
the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys.
Yes, the Hardys. I forgot about the Hardys. Yes, the
Sure.
Dudleys. And you're right. There are a lot of tag teams out there for AEW. FTR, we met them in England, and they were very, very nice. We met, what's the name of the other ones you mentioned? The Young Bucks years ago. So tag teams are still out there. I just hope that the administration of all of the companies utilizes them correctly.
You and I both, Bill, and you and I and millions of other people. And I've also had the pleasure of meeting FTR and the Bucks. Great guys who
Yes.
are all four of them great guys and very knowledgeable. They are true students of the tag team game. And but my next question, and let me just apologize in advance. I got a 21-month here who, I'm sure you know the rest. You're a father and a grandfather. So,
Yes.
so, uh, I wanted to ask, and you brought up some really interesting names with Ole and Gene and all that. It's over here. Relax. So anywho, what I wanted to ask you was about the two teams that you lost and then later won the titles to. Um, the Brainbusters and the Colossal Connection. They did not hold the titles for very long. What was the actual reason? Was it just for you guys to lose the titles and then win them in spectacular fashion like you did at WrestleMania 6? Or was it to try something with the Brainbusters, but it may not have worked with the fans because they were so used to a different style of wrestling that the Brainbusters brought to the table? But anything you could tell us about that?
I really don't know the behind the scenes decision making. I think they were trying to develop interest and create a storyline. Uh, on both of those situations, I think they could probably have carried it for a longer period of time. In the case with Andre, I think his health, we weren't privy to how bad he was doing at the time. And to be honest with you, he wouldn't tell anybody anyway. He may have told Vince, but I think that's the case. I don't think there was a, you know, deep down secret on why neither team kept it for a period of time. Are you there?
Let me see if I got his microphone here. Brian, can you hear us? Firefighter, are you still there?
I'm still here. You hear me, babe?
We got you.
Yes.
Okay, very good. And I'm still on. Let me just ask you. And again, I'm not trying to stir anything here. I'd like to get your opinion if it's available. So you said you talk about the teams you worked with that you loved. Two teams I want to ask you about quick: the Killer Bees and the British Bulldogs. How did you were in the ring with both teams? How did you? Killer Bees are one of my all-time favorite underrated tag teams. How were you like with them? And number two, with the Bulldogs, a lot. Listen, a lot of wrestlers have trashed the Bulldogs. They weren't crazy about them backstage. How did you guys get along with them? And how did it go with you guys and them? Because you have a lot of. I've heard some wrestlers say Bill Eadie has a way of getting along with wrestlers that are hard to get along with. So how were you guys with the Bulldogs and the Killer Bees? And with that, I'll just say, Bill, it's been a pleasure. Jay and Tommy, thanks a trillion as always, and I'll hopefully talk to you guys next week. And as always, God bless.
Thank you. As far as the Killer Bees and the Bulldogs, we had, I thought, good matches with them. We had sometimes great matches with the Bulldogs. We work with the Bulldogs, of course, more than we did the Killer Bees, and there was no particular reason why. I think they were having them involved in storylines with other teams, but you know, how could you not have good matches with those guys? The Killer Bees and the Bulldogs, all professional, all in the business for a number of years, top individuals as well as top tag teams, and we never had a problem with either team. Uh, the Bulldogs were a little cantankerous and they liked to pull pranks, but it was our dealings with them were all 100% positive. Same thing for the Killer Bees. So have nothing but positives.
Well, those are just two of the many teams that Demolition had the opportunity to work with their time in the WWF. Bill, we appreciate so much you taking so much time out today to talk to us. And anyone that is in the New York, New Jersey area, you can come meet Bill on Halloween on October 31st. He's going to be the Mass Superstar. He's a comeback also as Demolition Ax. You're going to have a very unique opportunity on Halloween to get your face painted as one of the members of Demolition, one day only. Bill, thank you so much, and I look forward to listening to the next episode of Demo Pod.
Thank you, my friend. Always good when we get a chance to speak and talk and reminisce. And thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you so much. And also, a little quick trivia question before you leave, Bill. And Bill knows this, but I don't know if everyone else does. Bill was the first wrestler I ever booked for a show in December 1993, my first convention, and he's been unbelievable to me ever since then. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, my friend.
Tommy, how old were you then?
Young.
I was 16 years old.
Bill, what made you say yes to a 16-year-old saying he could run a convention? I'm glad you did, but that's interesting.
I really don't know, but you know,
I don't know if you remember this, Bill. I was friendly with Cousin Luke.
Yes,
and Cousin Luke was in Jersey, and you were very tight with Cousin Luke. So I think you did Cousin Luke the favor, but you treated me like I was 30-year-old that's been in the business for 10 years. So thank you, sir.
Well, it's been a good relationship, and I appreciate our friendship.
Thank you so much for joining us, Bill. We'll
Thank
see you in New Jersey.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bill.
Bushwhacker Luke vouched for you, huh, Tommy?
I thought it was Cousin Luke, but no, it's Cousin Luke. Not
oh, it's Cousin Luke. I got you.
Hillbilly Cousin Luke.
Oh, what are you doing hanging out with the hillbilly Cousin Luke?
I was a country boy, brother. Country boy from New Jersey.
I can only picture you in overalls from now on, brother.
Well, listen, I made mention of this on my Facebook page last week, how nowadays, with social media, anyone can contact a wrestler through Facebook or Instagram or X or TikTok or any of these social media platforms. And a lot of times the wrestlers have their email information on there to book them for appearances. But back then in 1993, there was no, any of that. So like you had to know someone really good just to be able to get someone's phone number. And I just had lucked out and knew the right people back in 1993 when I was only 16 years old. I was going to independent wrestling shows. I had a little wrestling newsletter at the time. It was called Ringside Wrestling Newsletter. I probably had like 30 subscribers, but I would go to these shows and I would interview these wrestlers, and then I would get their phone numbers, and I would mail them copies of it, and like I started getting everyone's phone number, and then you remember Joel Gertner from ECW?
Oh yeah.
So what I would do is, for some reason, he had a bunch of phone numbers too. And we just started trading phone numbers, and like we had everyone's phone number, like not even like we had like Vince McMahon's number. We had like and like famous people too, like Elizabeth Taylor. Like we had like a network of getting all these phone numbers as young kids. So I had just lucked out and met the right people, and people took me under their wing. But Bill was always and still is probably my favorite guy, other than Tito. And obviously his partner, Barry Darso, to work with. He's tremendous. And I love any opportunity I get to talk to him or work with him. And I'm a big, big Demolition fan. That was my favorite tag team growing up as well, Jay, when I was a kid. I know yours is Boris Zukov and Nikolai Volkov, the Bolsheviks. But I
appreciate you not bringing that up when Bill was here.
Yeah, I was about to, but I waited till he got off. But I was always a huge Demolition guy, always. And it's cool to be able to have him on our podcast, just, a month removed of them going in the WWE Hall of Fame. And like I promised you guys, now that we have this platform where it's a lot easier for us to have guests, the old platform, to ask one of these older guys to, download an app and all this other stuff to get in. It's a lot. It's confusing. It's confusing for us as well. And this is still a learning curve also, this one, but this is a lot easier. So I'm going to do my best, guys, to have a guest for you each and every week right here on 80s Wrestling Podcast, because we've been doing this for a long time. We tackled pretty much every topic. So I want to give back to not only Jay, because he holds the ship together and steers it and does a tremendous job, but also you loyal listeners that tune in each and every week, whether it be live, being one of our callers, or the tons of people that I know that pick it up on their way home from work on any of their podcast platforms that they listen to the show to. So I'm very grateful that we have this platform to talk about something we all love, 80s Wrestling, the podcast. And I promise I'm going to make sure I have another guest for you guys next week right here.
Well, we appreciate it. It's an unbelievable opportunity for us, excuse me, to connect with somebody we grew up watching on TV, having action figures of, to actually get to talk to them and ask them questions directly is quite the treat, Tommy. So we appreciate you setting it up. And Bill was in the studio about 10 minutes early. I got to chat with him ahead of time. I told him, you can turn your camera off if you want. We can just do audio. He said, no, I want to keep my camera on. I want people to be able to see me. A handsome son of a gun.
A handsome guy like that. Listen, a handsome guy like that. You want to keep your phone on, your camera on for,
and that's why Tommy and I are audio only. We don't got the good looks that Billy has.
One of my reasons why also is that my store opens. So if someone walks in the store and I'm filming something, that's why I have it on audio only. But yes, I'm gonna work on getting another guest for next week here, and it's a new era of 80s Wrestling, the podcast. We're going to keep the streak going with live guests each and every Thursday right here, Jumpin Jay. I hope that you and your family have a great weekend, and I look forward to talking to everyone next week. Shout out to my daughter. It is her 10th birthday this Monday, so her last couple of days of being 9. And I will talk to everyone next week. And Jumpin Jay, I will text you as soon as I can confirm who the guest is, and maybe we can get up on our social media platform a little bit earlier. That way it will give our listeners and followers something to look forward to and prepare some questions. So on that note, guys, have a great weekend, and we'll catch you back here live with another 80s Wrestling Star guest on 80s Wrestling,
the podcast.